Hey, yeah, cool. John, I got to break in on you. I'm supposed to go live on LinkedIn for a presentation at noon, and it's noon. Um, yeah, can you pop me a message in LinkedIn or reconnect? Ex Perfect, perfect. I'm gonna hit go live and see what I can do, see what damage I can do on LinkedIn. All right, bye-bye. Go live. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, this is a big day. Big day. Meeting is live streaming. It says it's live streaming. Let's see. Got this. And I'm gonna hit go live. Let's see what we got here. All right. I am super excited. In fact, I'm gonna turn on. It says it's live streaming. Let's see. Yep. Got this. End stream. We are good. I'm gonna hit go live. All right, let's turn down some volume. All right. I am super excited. In fact, and I'm gonna turn on go live and volume off. There we go. All right, folks, this is my first time doing LinkedIn Live. So I sure hope that this is working and that it is going through. I'm getting all kinds of notifications here that tell me that things are going great. What I would love to have happen is I would love to have you guys give me your feedback or give me your questions. I'm going to put that right into the chat right there. And I am absolutely thrilled. So first things first, I made myself kind of a little list so that I wouldn't get lost in my own stuff. Okay. First off, yesterday. So if you don't know, my name is Kurt Von Ahnen. I own a company called Mañana No Mas. And if you saw the thumbnail earlier, you saw there were 3 brands above the Mañana No Mas signage. And those brands are projects that Mañana No Mas takes care of. One of the ones is in my passion point in power sports, and that is dealing with motorcycle dealerships, some marine dealerships, marine companies, bicycles, RVs, all of these things that are like consumer goods, right? But vehicles, I take care of in the Power Sports Academy. The Power Sport Academy is a mainly administrative training portal for people to get virtual training away. They don't have to leave the dealership. They can do it. It's open year round. It's a subscription service. And we work with them to help them improve their parts and labor sales, customer satisfaction, and internal culture. So largely based in communication and leadership. Vaxpreneur is a new project for us. Vaxpreneur is a project that, you know, people that have been adversely affected by vaccine mandates or the vaccines themselves and find themselves unable to continue in the line of work that they had. We're providing community and resource to people from a positive perspective on, hey, what are the next steps? I never thought about being self-employed. What's the next step? How do I come up with a decent idea? How do I filter out all my crazy ideas? How do I take the next steps on seeing if my idea has legs? And so Vaxpreneur is a community and resource center for that. And we just released it, so it's building over time. And then Challenge Connection is another, you know, kind of communication and leadership type thing, but it is a tool that allows people to take their online challenges, like a Facebook challenge, and put them into their own portal so that they have more control over the series of events, so they can keep everything in like a day 1, day 2, day 3 activity stream. They can communicate directly with the people that are in their challenge, and they can control the data of their challenge as far as being able to reach out to people through emails or sales funnels, and they can monetize their funnels and even sell the challenges through a payment gateway that we put in the back end of it. And everyone owns their own space in the Challenge Connection. So if someone wants to have a challenge on how to make balloon animals, they can do that on their own page. Someone wants to have a challenge on, you know, how to fill up a water bottle correctly, they can have their challenge on a separate page. But it's just a really cool project because it allows people to get off the censorship of big tech and to put stuff where they want it. Just last week, I had a really good friend who popped up, made a comment about vaccinations on Facebook, was taken away from Facebook, and lost contact with all of his pages and all of his business activity that was associated with Facebook. And without getting too political, that's just a thing. It can happen. So I wanted to make sure I had a challenge where people could do that. So what are we doing with LinkedIn Live? Well, for one, we're celebrating, right? Because for months and months and months, I kept doing a Mañana No Mas morning check-in, putting the replays up on LinkedIn and saying, hey, because I don't have LinkedIn Live yet, here's the message for today. I decided to do the first event as, what's your first impression with retail? This comes from, as a business consultant, I go out to different businesses, mainly power sports dealerships, right? So under the Power Sport Academy, I'll go and visit a dealership. And as I visit a dealership, I'm coming up with like the first impression of retail. And the reason that I wanted to launch with this is because I'm thinking about all of the different things that Mañana No Mas does. And it's one of those messages that kind of encapsulates everything, right? Whether you sell consumer goods as a computer store, or you sell motorcycles or bicycles or something like that, this message, this thing today, hopefully will add value to you. And I'm seeing a message come through. I'm hoping that it works. Let's see. Trying to see the LinkedIn session, but it would appear there are technical difficulties. Oh, I sure hope not. I show it live. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm showing you guys live here and live there and live here. And it says live here. All right. So I'm going to keep going and hopefully people can get into this. In fact, I'm going to take this URL, right? And I'm going to take this and put this right back into messaging. And I'll say, is it here? Okay. And we'll try that. And let's see what we've got. Now, I've just went ahead and copy a link to video. Okay, got that. And it says the stream health is excellent. So we should be able to keep going. All right, and it says we're live. So we are back at it. So the message for today is first impressions with retail. And I just wanted to share with people kind of what's my practice. How do I approach a business when I'm jumping out and helping people on site? Again, earlier I said we do virtual training. So I don't want to distract you and think that, this has to be in person, but there are occasions where a dealer qualifies for me to come out and do an on-site visit. So I go out to do an on-site consulting visit at a business, and I'll tell you what I do. I drive by, right? Sounds like a silly thing, but it's what I do. I basically take out my camera, right? Boom. I take out the camera, I'm driving by. And as I'm driving by, I take a series of photos. I'm really big at taking lots and lots of pictures when I visit a facility, because I can't possibly remember everything or take notes on everything while I'm working with the customer. So, and the customer being the dealer owner or the service manager or someone like that. And so as we're having conversations, I'm taking lots of pictures. I use the pictures for a report that I set out later. And so when I do that, it doesn't say, I'm not ending the stream. Right. So when I do that, I am basically creating myself a virtual memory bank of what I've seen and what I've experienced. Okay. So as I drive up to the facility, I take a bunch of pictures. I go past the facility, I make a U-turn, I go drive by back again, and I take more pictures from the other perspective. Having different perspectives, especially when you're going to communicate later in a document to someone that owns a business, is super valuable, because the owner may only drive up, one way. An owner may only approach his business from one direction. So when you are taking photos from both directions, you're opening up a different perspective for the client. So when I do that, I'll park and I don't park at the door, I park away. So as I walk up to the facility, again, I'm taking more pictures, and it could be something that's parked over the lines in the parking lot, lines that don't exist in a parking lot, signage that doesn't exist in a parking lot. But there's one that I want to share with you, and it's about signage. I was actually at a facility in Texas, and as I walked up to the building, it said service this way. And I said, okay, that sign was on a door, right? Up. Well, I'm getting messages, so that's good. So it looks like people are trying to get into it, okay? Anyway, the sign was on a door and the sign said service that way. And so I was like, all right. And I'm wearing my nice shoes, right? And I start walking through the parking lot. It had rained the night before. And so there's puddles and I'm making sure I don't get into the puddles. All of a sudden I get to a gate and I'm looking and there's no other sign that says service on any other door. So as I am approaching, I come up to the end of the pavement and there's a gate and now there's dirt. More specifically, there's mud. And so I'm like, all right, whatever. So I start walking through this dirt, trying to avoid the mud puddles. And I start walking around the back end of this building and there is no other sign on any other door that says service. So I walk back up to the front of the building, right? And I stomp my shoes on the welcome mat, make sure I'm not tracking mud into my customer store. And I walk in the front door and there is a giant parts counter. And right over the parts counter, it says service. And I thought, well, as a first time visitor, I just walked around the back of your building in a mud puddle. This is not a great first impression, right? We're talking about retail, on-site first impressions for retail. So I try to see things from a customer's perspective, right? Now there's certain things I'll take pictures of that I love. Here's a great display of an audio center. Here's a great display of a UTV up showing its suspension under mirrors, right? Here's a spotlight that's in the right place. So when I'm doing these first impression reports, I want to make sure that I pepper in positive with areas for growth. Now, part of my goal is to always have areas of growth, always have something to show somebody that we can improve the bottom line with, right? As I go back to the service department, I focus on fixed operations. I'm a consultant that generally works in the service department of a retail organization. If it were Best Buy, I'd be the guy that was, consulting with the Geek Squad to help them provide better service, right? If it was a bicycle shop, I'd be back in that service department of that bicycle shop. When it's power sports, I'm focusing on the service department of a power sports dealer, a place that services UTVs, jet skis, motorcycles, dirt bikes, that kind of thing. And so when I start going and looking at these stores, I start doing the picture thing again. And I start going, where are the warranty parts stored? Where are the parts going that are going to go on customers' motorcycles, right? So where are the parts to service items being stored? How do you dispatch the work to the technicians in the back of that area? And so there's things about shop efficiency and shop productivity that I'm recording. Some of that has to do with the customer first impression of retail, right? A lot of it has to do with so I'll watch as the service writers are taking phone calls, making appointments. What's the process for making the appointment? What are the requirements for someone to get an appointment expedited, right? Because that's an issue. And then I take a look at the process on how they greet a customer and write up a customer to get service performed. All of these things come down to a first impression in a retail environment. But one of the questions I wrote down was, is it possible to have a second chance at a first impression? So I wanted to think about that. And if there's people that have managed to get in to see this live on LinkedIn, I wanted to see what they could get. So I'm going to type in question, right? So we'll type in question. I misspelled question. Oh my goodness. Okay, so question. Is it possible to get a second chance at a first impression? And if you've got the chance to be in here live and you can comment on it, that's fantastic. A yes or a no, or maybe a short little story if you want to share that. But for someone that's a specialist in fixed operations, I'm going to tell you most explicitly, the answer is yes, 100% yes. Here's why. Customers, although not all of them, some customers experience the service department as a separate store to the sales department. So even if they've had a stellar experience in the sales department and they can't wait to come in and see the service department is getting their first impression at that first visit. The sales department could have screwed the pooch. The sales department could have raked them over the coals, really turned them upside down in the finance and insurance department, taken advantage of a situation with, a broken supply chain and overcharged them for things, and done the dealer market value, adjustment for $5,000. And all of those things could have happened in the sales department. And they might have a disgruntled customer, but when they come to the service department, you still have an opportunity to make that first impression. You still have that opportunity to regain customer trust, customer faith, if you will, and do things right. And so in the service department, I really tell folks, we got to work on the language when you bring in a customer, and the language when you write up a customer, and the things that go on that repair order. So regardless of whether the vehicle's brand new with 200 miles on it, or if it's been out on the road for 10 years and has 50,000 miles on it, I tell them you need to have a goodwill inspection on that repair order. So whatever the customer came in for, the first service, the turn signal doesn't work, the horn doesn't work, the whatever the problem might be, you always want to have a line on there for goodwill inspection. And then as that customer picks up that unit at the end of the service experience, you want to be able to go over that goodwill inspection with them as part of a quality delivery system, right? And you want to say, hey, these are the things that we saw in your vehicle. Good news, it's still brand new. Good news, it's holding up wonderfully. Your tires have this much tread. Your brakes are at full strength. Bam, bam, bam. And some people would tell me, well, why am I meeting with someone to tell them everything's great? I'm a salesperson. I'm only supposed to tell them stuff they need. And I would counter to you that this is about building relationship, and it's about that first impression. I keep going back to that, but it's that first impression. You want to set the expectation from the very first visit of, hey, this is a process and this is what we're going to do, right? That goodwill inspection over time is going to sow the seed. Now, if you were in the car world, they would probably call this the service walk around. Right? So if you're in the automotive dealership environment, they're going to say, hey, you need to do a quality walk around with your customers when you write them up. And all the service writers go, boo, I don't want to do that. That's crazy. Right? But if you do a quality walk around, you're able to walk around with the customer. You're able to look at all the things on the vehicle and go, oh, hey, it looks like your tires are, probably about halfway worn out. Right? So you're not going to sell tires on that visit, but you're sowing the seed that in the next visit or 2 visits from now, you might want to have a conversation about how much a set of tires costs for that car. Right? And so it's by setting that expectation, by setting that relationship in a proper channel of expectations, that we're able to build customer relationships for life. They get to know what to expect. If I'm a customer and I bring my motorcycle to you and you give me a healthy bill of inspection, right? You give me a healthy report. You say, here's the report card for your vehicle. It's great. I feel wonderful. The next time I go in, here's your report card. Is great. We changed the oil. We adjusted the throttle cable. Other than that, the bike is great. Fantastic, right? I go in the third time and you go, hey, we did the service, but based on the owner's manual, you're going to be scheduled for, checking the valve clearance and timing adjustment. And, you're probably really getting due for chain and sprockets, maybe on your next visit. Okay. So 3, 4, 6 months later, when they schedule that next service visit and you were doing the walk around with the customer and you go, hey, it looks like your chain and sprockets are kind of wore out. I think we mentioned that last time. Yeah, why don't you guys go ahead and do it? It's already pre-sold. The seed has already been sown. And now it's time to reap that harvest. If you've never done the work before, if you've never cared about that first impression on the service drive, then you lost the opportunity for that harvest. If you surprise a customer and go, hey, it looks like you're due for a valve adjustment, timing adjustment, you're due for chain sprockets, and it looks like you're probably going to throw a rear tire on this thing. If you hit them with all that at once with no warning, chances are they're going to go, you know what, let's hold off. Let me shop around and see what I can do. Right? That's not a sign of relationship. That's not a sign of success through building those first impressions over and over and over again. Right? And so those are one of the things that I really wanted to tap on. Now, as I made my notes for what I was going to talk about today, I was going to say, here's my consulting process. And then I wanted to kind of let you know, like, where my head goes in that consulting process. A lot of people assume that because I'm a fixed operations specialist, that I only care about what happens in the service department. And this would be true at any retail store, any fast food store. Let me give you an example. I was on a road trip, traveling. I was tired. I was hungry. I was going from East Coast to West Coast. I was near Las Vegas. I got off the highway and I was starving Marvin, man. And so me and my wife had gone into, I'm not going to say the name of the restaurant. I just won't say it. How about that? But I like flame broiled goodness. And so I was like, I want a flame broiled burger. And so we go into a restaurant and my wife's in line. She's getting ready to order. And I'm like, I got to use the restroom. I go into the restroom and it's a disaster. It's an absolute unmitigated disaster. I didn't even touch the door leaving. Like I didn't touch the sink. I didn't touch the door, nothing. I went out to the line. I grabbed my wife and I said, we're leaving. We're out of here. Like, if that's the way they took care of the bathroom, I don't want anybody touching my food. I'm out of here. Right. And that is one of those impressions. That impression stuck with me so much that further along in the trip and for months after that trip, if I was starving Marvin on a road trip, I didn't stop at that chain. I didn't go there because I was like, there's absolutely no way that I am going to support that or spend my money there after what I saw. Right now, logically, as a smart human being, I'm going, that's a one-off. Right. The restroom being a disaster off the highway in Las Vegas has no bearing on what the restroom is going to look like in Corona, California, or, Los Angeles or Denver, Colorado, or right. But in my mind, that impression had already been spoiled and I didn't want to even take the chance. Right. So I think about that dealership telling me service that way. And I'm walking around the back of their building with nice shoes on in the mud. Now, if I'm a customer, how am I feeling? Am I feeling like that's a place I want to go back to? Or am I feeling like this is a place that can't even get the door sign correct? Why would I want to spend my money here? Why would I want to go here? Why would I want to entrust them with my $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 vehicle when they can't even put the sign on the door correctly? Now, I might be blowing things out of proportion. People might think I'm crazy, but these are impressions. Remember, when consumers are shopping, a lot of them are shopping from emotion. A lot of them aren't shopping from logic, right? So a lot of people are making the buying decision based on how they feel, not on what they know. So if you make them feel like an idiot walking around in the mud in the back of a yard, they're probably not feeling all that inclined to want to entrust you with thousands of dollars for something else. Just a point of fact, because we have to think about how we make people feel. Right. And that's part of that first impressions. Now, I can already hear people asking, and they're saying, well, if he focuses so much on service, if he's talking so much about what happens on the service drive, then how does he even put this together? So here's my idea. And bear with me on this. I did a whole talk on this the other day, so I'm not going to go too deep. Why am I taking pictures of the front of the building, the side of the building, the back of the building, the showroom, the parts displays, the everything, and then through the service department? And why am I making all of that part of my proposal or my report to the ownership of the business? Quite simple. Even though I focus on fixed operations and I focus on service from the perspective of increasing parts and labor sales for that department, I view that department as part of a much bigger enterprise. In my mind, a motorcycle dealership, a bicycle shop, a car dealership, an RV store, a computer store, an appliance store, all of these are much smaller examples of what a successful shopping mall would be. Think about it. How many shopping malls have you been to? How many really nice shopping malls have you been to? You go out there, the parking lot's clean. The lines are striped, right? The signage is clear. You know what door to park near to get to the store that you want to go to, right? How many times does a customer have to pull up for service at your facility and not even know where the service department is, right? So parking lot clean, striped, signage is great. These are all things that I look for. And then I look at the outside of the building. Is it pleasing to the eye? Is it clean? Is there trash stacked up on the side of the building that I can see? Or is it clean? Is it welcoming? Is it telling me I want to be here? Right? Then I take a look at the sales department. Is the sales department, clean? Is it efficient? Are things well merchandised? Is the parts department well merchandised? Is the parts department are they alive, right? Are they hunched over, all three of them, staring at a computer, watching YouTube videos, or are they greeting people as they come in the door, right? Fair questions. And people go, well, if you're a fixed operations expert, why are you studying all this stuff? Because the health of that department requires the overall health of the entire business, just like a shopping mall, right? If the food court is screwed up at a shopping mall, that whole mall starts to fall apart. If you take a look at a food court and it's got a Sparrow and a McDonald's and a Burger King and a hot dog on a stick and an Asian takeaway place, and it's got all that stuff. But you go into that same mall a year later, and 3 of the food court facilities have the gate down, they're shut, and it's locked up. Immediately, the energy for the shopper goes down. If they're going through the mall and the Bloomingdale's is gone and the gates are shut and the lights are out, the energy from the shopper dissipates, right? The strength of that shopping mall really depends on the success of each store within the mall to knock it out of the park at their own specialty and then bring people in. Does that make sense? So when I go and I look at a fixed operations effort at a motorcycle dealership, I take a look at sales, parts, service, expediting, web sales. I take a look at their internet site, right? What's the website look like? What do the reviews look like? What are people saying about this place, right? And that all comes down to being on site and gathering the first impression for retail. I can't stress enough how important it is. If a store misses out on the first impression for retail, if they're missing the mark on that, chances are they don't even see it. That's why it's important for a person like me to go and do an audit, right? To go and drive by and take the pictures from the north side, from the south side, from the east side, from the back of the building, from the highway. If it's noticeable from the highway, you want to take a picture from the highway. What do people see? You want to make sure that you convey to the business owner, hey, this is what I'm seeing when I'm looking at your business. When you look stuff up and you look at the reviews online, you give a report to the owner and you go, this is what I see when I'm looking at your business. The owner doesn't see that. In a lot of cases, the owner, quite honestly, is struggling just to stay alive month to month, right? And so even if financially things look pretty good, it's hard to run these entities, and they're distracted by other things. I compare this a lot to like people on that show Hoarders. Like when someone buys a brand new house, they go, oh, what a beautiful house. They don't go, I can't wait to fill it up with trash so I can die in a pile of my own feces 5 years later, right? But the show Hoarders is going to show us people that inadvertently, over time, has suffered some kind of lapse and have allowed their house to fall into a state of disrepair full of trash. And we go, well, how does that happen? It's not healthy. There's something wrong with that person. Well, that can happen to us in our businesses over time. We lose focus on what's important. We lose focus on getting ahead. We lose focus on first impressions. So if we can get the first impression right, and we can concentrate on the first impression in retail, how much better can the rest of our processes, how much better can the rest of our efficiencies become as a business if we nail first impressions? If we can nail the first impression, right? So if you're in the service area and you work with cars, boats, airplanes, I don't care, right? You work with something. If you can get the first impression correct on greeting the customer, doing the walk around, doing the goodwill inspection, and communicating to the customer in a proactive way, if you can nail that, how much smoother is the rest of your enterprise? How much easier is it to make processes and efficiencies that will build so that you can sell more parts and labor, so that you can better address the customer's needs and wants, so that you can reduce your lead time for service from 3 weeks to 2 weeks, from 2 weeks to 1 week, to maybe just a couple of days. Because if you have better efficiencies and better processes and you make these better first impressions, you will find over time that you can increase your headcount to meet the customer's needs while increasing your gross profit. And at the end of all this, isn't gross profit what we're all in business for anyway? So I got a little preachy there at the end, but we are at 12:29. I got a couple of messages that said that people were having a problem seeing the live. I'm gonna reload the replay so that people can see it. And folks, I'm super excited that LinkedIn gave me the ability to go LinkedIn Live, but I'm looking at this and seeing that maybe there was an issue between maybe Zoom connecting or LinkedIn connecting. I am seeing in my screen, just so you know, I'm seeing Zoom on one screen and I'm seeing LinkedIn Live on the other, and I'm live and it says the stream health is excellent. So now I'm concerned that maybe somehow or another, one of the links inadvertently got changed while setting all these things up to communicate with each other. One way or another, I'll get it figured out. I thank you so much for watching me live or for coming back and watching the replay. I'm super stoked that you were here. I'm looking at a schedule of events to figure out what value I can bring to you guys, how it makes sense, and maybe some possible guest speakers to come in and fill the gaps and really be the experts on some other things. But for now, I'm going to call it done. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. And I'm thrilled to be here. I will see you guys soon. Love you. Bye-bye. Are you sure you want to end the live broadcast? Your broadcast will be available. Yes, yes, yes.